Golden Rule Radio is brought to you by McIlvaney ICA. ICA has been helping people take delivery of precious metals and find storage options for decades. They've also helped thousands of investors with their precious metals IRAs. Call ICA today for your free portfolio review at 800-525-9556 or download your free report online by clicking the link in the video description to learn how you can double your gold and silver ounces even within an IRA.
Welcome back to Golden Rule Radio, your weekly recap of the precious metals market and the news that moves the market in our first show coming into June 2nd today, Wednesday, and this is going to be probably the best show ever because I'm all alone in the studio again this week. Both Tori and Robert had to be out of town this week, so I'm sitting here with our producer, and we're going to take a very concise look at the gold charts because we're just going to be adding on to the conversation we had last week regarding where the precious metals were going. Now, last week we looked at gold moving into that 618 retracement fib on the upside, coming up from that 1678 bottom, breaking above 1900, and at the time of this recording, we're currently sitting at 1909, hovering right around that 618 fib. Now, last week we looked at that medium-term RSI divergence, and we look like we may be pushing a 3 drives up pattern with RSI divergence, which could cause gold at some point here, maybe in the next $20 or so, to turn around and come back and test one of the support levels we've put in previously, down in the 1860s, maybe as low as 1810 from a starting point where it could turn around from. So I think you are going to see some market moves. Usually when you have these big reversals, you're going to have some volatility as bears and bulls decide which side they're going to land on. But personally, I'd love to see gold take a $50, $60, $80 decline, give some of our clients, some of the gold investors out there in YouTube land, the opportunity to add to their precious metals positions any chance that they get. So that's the number one goal of this show, is to provide entry and exit opportunities depending on the bullish or bearish trend of the market as the years progress. So that's what I'm certainly hoping for. Once again, since Tori's not in the studio this week, I will say I am definitely starting to lean more and more long-term bullish, which we started back in 2015. We've had about the 6-month delay, which does happen, and looking for that next phase of the bull market, which probably pushes us well into the 2000s, maybe nearing 3,000, 3,200 on the next push up. So be on the lookout for an opportunity in precious metals, specifically gold, in the next couple weeks should it arise. Now, on the flip side of that, if we see the second scenario play out and it just ends up sitting here, you wouldn't want to miss that as well, because we're not going to see 1850. 1900 is a good entry price. 1900's a great entry price when gold is 3,200. Let's not forget that either. And with some of the news coming out with CPI now up over 4% this year, everybody's seeing it. In fact, I got a picture from a friend of mine over in California earlier this week. I've been joking for a few months, what happens when gas hits $5? And he sent me a picture, 429, I believe it was, where he is outside of Los Angeles. So we're definitely getting there. And then, of course, I talked about my chicken coop expenses last week. So things are getting more expensive. The dollar is continuing to decline. Gold is obviously going up along with other commodities. Since the same story is going to ring pretty true along all commodities, especially the metals, we do want to at least look at silver, but not going to give the long explanation I just did there with gold. Silver sitting in between its sort of high point at around $30, and then this lower end increasing floor that is currently sitting at around $24.75 to $25. Silver's up near the top of it at $28.50 and does continue to look like it's climbing. Getting a little bit of a compression here, but not really. Just looking for silver to make another higher high and probably break above 29 on its way back up to 30. Platinum, on the other hand, is the opportunity of the week as it's sitting at the bottom end of its rising channel. Platinum down just around $1,200, at least on the spot price. Real platinum's a little bit more expensive than that, but not terrible. Platinum likely to follow suit with gold and silver as it has been and push back up to the top end of that trading channel should gold and silver continue the climb up. Now, platinum we've talked about for a long time because it has remained one of the best opportunities in precious metals because of some of the ratio discussion that we've been having for a while. So don't neglect select platinum in your precious metals position, a 10%, 15%, maybe even 20% allocation for the more aggressive investor into a platinum position makes a lot of sense when you compare platinum to gold and when you compare platinum to its other group metals like palladium and rhodium. So if you haven't looked at adding platinum to your position, give one of the advisors here at McIlvaney ICA a call, and we can talk about how that fits into your portfolio. So moving over to the equities market, I do want to look at the Dow Industrials compared to the Dow Transports. The Dow has stalled here around 35,000, although it has still continued to slowly climb, and it's likely we will see it push above 35,000. Like we've seen repeatedly over the last number of years, you seem to continue to get these inclinations where it's trying to turn bearish, but then obviously isn't allowed to. Now that coincides with where the US dollar is, currently hard stuck down at around 89.5. So do we call that the floor in the US dollar? Obviously our argument is no, but the dollar does seem to have stalled here, which makes sense when you look at 5 or 10 year chart on the US dollar and you see a couple years ago where we put that ultimate floor in. So on the heels of the discussion Rob and I had 2 weeks ago regarding the inflationary pressures that we're seeing in the U.S., the dollar is expected to continue to fall. Despite having some bumps back up, it is expected long-term to continue to fall, which if that inflation does make its way into the market as a whole, likely pushes the Dow continued higher. Although it is nice to see the Dow Transports and the Dow Industrials showing the same kind of action again. We've had some disconnects where the transports decline and the industrials continue to climb, and vice versa. Just here recently, the Dow Transports had a massive rise last year, thanks a lot in due to COVID and a lot of people shipping a lot of things around the U.S. that normally they may go get by hand. Saw the transports climb very, very fast. The industrials, while going up, didn't keep up pace. So it is good to see things kind of evening out in the equity sphere, but all of that has to come from somewhere. And as best I can tell, it's coming almost exclusively from the Federal Reserve Bank adding additional Treasury bill notes to the U.S. market. So that's going to do it this week for Golden Rule Radio. I encourage all of our listeners to keep a very close watch on the markets over the next 7 to 10 days, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, especially the gold price. Pay attention to how the bulls and the bears are kicking that price around, because we're at an inflection point where it's going to make a decision here very shortly. On the flip side of that, it's time to make a decision on platinum if you haven't done so already. So I'll emphasize that to close our show out this week, and thank you all for joining me. If you liked what you heard, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell. We're also on Twitter at ICA Gold or Facebook at McIlvaney Financial. Head on over to our website at McIlvaney.com if you'd like to learn more about our investment strategies, or better yet, give us a call at 800-525-9556 to speak with one of us individually. Thanks again for listening, and hope you guys have a great week.